Go ahead, Jay.
No. New hairdo? How are they doing? How are you?
Your husband? Yeah, Frankie is my husband. I have an insane, nappy head spot coming in my house. You know, I'm sick and tired of men using love like it's some kind of disease you just catch.
Look at her! You are one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life.
Love should have brought your ass home last night.
Feel free to touch me anywhere you want.
Okay, take your pants off.
Okay. I don't want to sit and stare.
The problem is I've never sat down in this dress.
My problem is I can't stand up.
Halle Berry, the woman of your dreams, the woman of everybody's dreams, male or female. See, the men wanted Halle, and the women wanted to be Halle. Even Halle wanted to be Halle. That's why she did. But the woman of your dreams would experience many nightmares as she would endure a difficult life filled with conflict and pain. This is her story. Halle Maria Berry was born on August the 14th in 1966 in Cleveland, Ohio, as the youngest daughter born to Jerome and Judith Berry. She was named after Halle Brothers department store. A product of the inner city along with her older sister Heidi, Halle's mother was white and her father was black, which subjected her to hatred early in life.
When I was in the 3rd grade, and it was from another kid at school who had gotten a glimpse of my mother and told me that she couldn't possibly be my mother because had I noticed that she was white and I wasn't, that maybe I was in fact adopted, that this really couldn't be my mother.
But despite being half white, Halle's mother Judith would encourage her to identify herself as a black woman.
She knew that in America, that is how I would be perceived, and I would be discriminated against as a black woman, and so she wanted to prepare me and not have me living with any delusions.
But Halle's father had issues, and his abuse made life in the beginning very challenging.
Well, he was an alcoholic. So right then and there, you know, that lends itself to not only verbal abuse, but a lot of physical abuse, and especially towards my mother. And then later on in life, he came back to live with us when I was like maybe 10 years old. And this time, he started to not only abuse my mother, but my sister, our dog, and I just wished he would go.
And watching my mother get beat up day after day after day, watching my mother get kicked downstairs, and watching my mother get stitches in the back of her head because she had been hit with a wine bottle when she wasn't looking.
Judith would ultimately send Jerry packing, which would leave her raising the children on her own, which meant she had to make sacrifices and also changes. And the first change would come when Halle was in the 3rd grade.
We were living in the inner city, and my mother went to a sewing class at the high school that my sister and I would subsequently go to as we got a few years older. And she was so horrified by what she saw at the school, the violence, and all of a sudden it hit her, oh shoot, my kids are gonna go to this school. So she moved us out of that neighborhood, out of the inner city, and moved us to the suburb. And while we got taken out of imminent danger, we also got taken out of what was normal for us, and now all of a sudden we were in an all-white school with all white kids, like 3 out of 2,500 students, and we were in culture shock a little bit. I got bullied because of the color of my skin, and being at that time we were Oreos because my mother was white, my father was black, and we got called Oreos and names, and kids just didn't understand, so we were different, and so that we were the brunt of a lot of jokes. And so I think my need to please and my desire to achieve was because I was constantly trying to prove that I was as good as the other white students. I felt very less than.
Halle would adopt the mantra that if she could beat the white students that bully her at everything, then she could be just as good as them, which would light a fire under her as she desired to be their equals. So she would become the school newspaper editor, class president, head cheerleader, as well as the prom queen. But some of the students at the predominantly white school wasn't having it, as they accused Halle of stuffing the ballot box. So the school officials, who clearly also didn't believe she won, appointed a white co-prom queen to be at her side. Even though Halle was hurt by their made-up accusations, she would move on to much bigger things, being crowned Miss Teen Ohio at the age of 18, and then Miss Teen All-American. After graduating high school in 1984, Halle would enroll into community college to study broadcast journalism. And in 1986, she would win Miss Ohio as well as runner-up for the Miss USA pageant. And with this came the opportunity to become the first black woman to ever represent the United States in the Miss World pageant, which took place in London. And she would come in 6th place. While in London, Halle would meet Daily Express show business reporter Roger Taverner, who was covering the pageant. And after chatting with her and learning that she wanted to be a journalist herself, he invited her to their Fleet Street location while also showing her some of London. He also thought it would be a good idea to show Halle the ropes at the newspaper office, and she spent the day working in different departments for the newspaper, including taking calls as well as working in the darkroom. But her experience at the Daily Express would serve as a profound revelation to Halle. Seeing the behind-the-scenes grit of the news industry, she realized that this is not what she wanted to do. Not long after, a former pageant judge suggested that she try modeling in Chicago. Taking their advice, Halle packed up her things and left home for good. For Halle, now a young model booking gigs in Chicago, hanging out late nights with her young model friends, life couldn't get any better. And she received a phone call from a New York City talent manager, Vincent Cerencione, who overheard about her from a client who knew Barry from their pageant days. And within months, she was off to big New York City. And if you can make it there, y'all know the rest. But life in the Big Apple would sour quickly, and Halle would soon find herself living in a homeless shelter.
I took my modeling money, and I thought when you're that young, I thought, well, I got some cash. When you get to New York, I mean, 3 months later, I was out of my cash.
Right.
And I called my mother, and I asked her to send me some money, and she said no. And that subsequently led to a year of not speaking to her because I was so upset that she wouldn't help me. But again, that's probably one of the best things she did for me because it taught me to be, she said, if you want to be there, then you be there, you work it out. And I had to work it out. Giving up was never an option. It was prove to her and everybody else that I can do. It took me right back to my high school years. You say I can't, watch me. I'm gonna figure this out. And shelter life was part of figuring it out for a minute until I could get a waitressing job, and then I got a bartending job. And until I could figure that out, that's what I did.
And figure it out, she did. Halle, who had been taking acting lessons in Chicago, would soon land her first TV role on ABC's Living Dolls.
Caroline thought the Bible should have been about her. Hi, I'm Emily. Hi. Trish represents lots of girls, but just the 4 of us live here.
And she was definitely not going to stop there. During filming of The Living Dolls, Halle would collapse from complications with diabetes, which she had been diagnosed with, but she would ultimately catch the eye of Spike Lee, who would cast her in his up-and-coming film Jungle Fever in 1990. Even though Halle was there to audition for the role of Spike's wife, she had a different plan, and she begged Spike Lee to read for the role of the crackhead.
I know when I did my very first movie, Jungle Fever, I had to play a crack-addicted, a crackhead, basically. No other way to put it, crackhead. So many people said, don't do that, you're a beautiful girl, you want to be a leading lady, don't play no crackhead. And I said, no, I want to be the crackhead. I want to be the crackhead. And I went into my audition with Spike, and I was there auditioning to be his wife. And I read for that role, but after I read for that role, I said, now Spike, can I read for the other role of Viv, the crackhead? He said, what? No, you're not Viv. And I said, yeah, I've been working on the Viv part. I really want to try the Viv. And he said, well, okay, but you have to go in the bathroom and wash all your makeup off. Remember my mother calling me and saying, damn, why'd you do that?
Lee vehemently disagreed, but she would not relent and ultimately wore Spike down. For Halle, her plan was simple. She wanted to be taken seriously as an actress, and she was fully aware that people just looked at her as a pageant queen. So she wanted to play a role that didn't rely on her gorgeous looks. And her brilliant plan worked to perfection. Not long after, she would land a reoccurring role on the nighttime drama Notch Landing, a stripper in the film Last Boy Scout, as well as the film Strictly Business. Her breakout role would come in the romantic comedy Boomerang, holding her own alongside the likes of Eddie Murphy, as well as Robin Givens, and she performed brilliantly while giving fans one of the most iconic moments in film history.
You know, I'm sick and tired of men using love like it's some kind of disease you just catch. Love should have brought your ass home last night.
Halle's success would come with many challenges and unfortunately, more pain. According to Halle, while filming The Last Boy Scout, she would experience physical abuse from a celebrity boyfriend that punctured her eardrum and left her without 80% of her hearing in her left ear. Though she would never name her abuser, she made it known that he was well known within Hollywood. Rumors began to circulate which ex was it? Was it her first husband, baseball player David Justice? Many people pointed to Christopher Williams, who became tired of people saying it was him. So Christopher then said it had to be Wesley Snipes, who chose not to respond. After a failed marriage to Eric Benet, Halle would become so depressed that she considered committing suicide.
Well, I think I was still using men and my mate to identify who I was. And when that was gone, then I was nothing. I was gonna sit in the car. I went into my garage with my 2 dogs and I had them in the car and I was gonna asphyxiate myself. It's almost like I had a flash of, you know, that good angel and that bad angel on my shoulder, and something was telling me on the right side of my brain, girl, don't do it. Girl, don't do it. Think of your mother. I couldn't do that to her. So I got out.
Halle told Essence magazine that she devalued herself and didn't believe she was worth much, and how watching her mother getting the ish kicked out of her lowered Halle's self-esteem, which is why many of her partners resemble her father. In May of 2000, Halle would plead no contest to fleeing the scene of a West Hollywood accident at 2:30 a.m. for which she received backlash. Halle was sentenced to 3 years of probation, fined $13,500 in order to perform 200 hours of community service.
The first few days after, I was consumed with, what must everybody be thinking? They must think I'm a terrible person. They must think I was doing something bad. It was horrifying, but it profoundly changed me. It was the real start for this evolution of being a woman who really doesn't care anymore what people think about me.
Halle would ultimately prove to be much more than an actress. She is a film icon who made her presence felt in many ways, becoming the first black woman to win an Academy Award for Best Actress, though it was not without controversy, as many people took issue with the sex scene. But the new Halle was not here for your opinions. She would establish herself as one of the highest paid actresses in the 2000s, starring and co-starring in many iconic films. A proud mother of 2 beautiful children, she also became a domestic abuse advocate, empowering women to break the silence and stand up for themselves. And after the death of her father, she also found healing and forgiveness. Halle Berry may indeed be the most beautiful woman to ever grace the big screen, but not because of her beauty.
Oh my gosh! Oh my God!
Quest,
He's
I've been waiting for you, man.
No, hey, no, stop. Your shoes.
So I went out
We're
like
live. The finest woman on this and any other planet, Halle Berry. When I really became a huge fan, you was fine as a crack addict, okay?
That crown should have been mine. I was pissed.
There is a song about you on YouTube that everyone is doing a dance to.
I'm not going to allow my blessings to be blocked because somebody wants to put shackles on my feet and expect me to do what they want me to do. And so that's having that courage. And when you go through very hard times and you see that you survive, you then gain courage because you know no matter what you're dealing with, no matter what choice you make, what risk you take, whether if the outcome is good or seemingly bad, you'll survive it because you survive much worse. And when you know you can do that, you take chances at free will because you know it'll be all good, all good, all good, all good, all good.